Topper, we've had a lot of people interested in the last interview we did, and they've suggested to us that we ask some other questions, things they'd like to know, people on the net.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to fire someone else's questions at you, if that's... Firstly, you wrote Rock the Casbah, Joe wrote the words, but you wrote the melody as well.
Yeah. I wrote the backing piano, the piano and the intro and the bass and the drums. I wrote the music behind it, but Joe went into the toilets and he came up with the words, and obviously then just sang them to the backing track. So.
Great. That's how the melody was kind of developed. Yeah. Having played and written in a clean state and an unclean state, how does your experience differ? Does it give the sound a different edge or focus?
It's a hard one to answer. There's good things to be said for both, really, you know, depending on what type of music you're playing. But definitely, overall, if I had a choice, it would be to do everything clean. You know, so.
Is it Watroy or Simonon on bass for Magnificent?
It's Norman Watroy on Magnificent 7.
Yeah. Clearly, Paul Simonon was an excellent reggae bass player. However, he's also always been an ardent non-musician in many ways. As a drummer who has such a close relationship with the bass player, how does Simonon rate as a musician?
Great. We found out doing this recording this last year, doing this box set anthology, realising how vital each one of us were for the band. And basically Paul on stage, because he used to keep the beat, because he used to play basically and power the music along, gave me the freedom to do all sorts of stuff across the beat and everything. On the couple of times I played with Norman, that was good, but it restricted me. So it's only with hindsight that you realise how vital each one of you were for the band, you know?
There are stories from Joe Strummer's friends before the Clash telling of a man who chose to ignore them when he became Joe Strummer. What's your take on Joe?
Well, I can identify with that, because basically when you joined the Clash, you had to get rid of all your old acquaintances, all your old way of life. I mean, when I went for the audition, I was mild-mannered Nick Headon with my longish hair, right? And 2 days later, I was Topper Headon, and I had my hair was chopped off. Months later, I divorced my wife. That was kind of like, that was how you joined the Clash. So it was very Stalin-esque. It
took you off. It stole you, basically.
But I know that Joe was good friends with his old friends again later.
Well,
just so that period. While we were in the band.
Because you had to, in order to do it properly.
It was more than just a band. It wasn't just music. It was a way of life.
Yeah. How would you describe the relationship between Mick and Joe?
Gay.
Right. We'll let them take what they want from that, eh?
No, like, they were brilliant songwriters. You know, there was always an element of chemistry within the band. There was a hostility, but you know, there was an air, there was an edge around the Clash.
But there has to be for that sort of music.
Exactly, for that brilliant music. You know,
surely all sort of Sex Pistols are Damned, they probably all had that.
But we were all close, you know, and we were like a family. It was wonderful.
A drummer is never really part of a band. What are your thoughts on that? I personally would say the other old saying is a band's only as good as its drummer.
Exactly.
And that would be your response to that, presumably.
Well, a band is only as good as its drummer. Have you ever seen a great band with a crap drummer?
No, not for long.
No, exactly.
How do you think the Clash managed to have integrity in their media roles of rock and roll stars?
It became harder as we got more and more successful. But that was what the Clash was vital to us, was staying close to the fans. You know, even right to the end, Sandinista was a triple album for the price of one. London Calling was a double album for the price of one. The ticket prices were low. We had all the fans coming backstage. If we had a day off, Joe would arrange to do some charity gig somewhere. The fans slept on our floors. It was, like I say...
It's a very close thing.
Yeah, it was a way of life.
I mean, I saw Joe stand up for you once at an interview.
No, when I've been sick. I've been sick on an airport carpet.
And
Joe stood up. I mean, he was probably furious at me, but if anyone else attacked anyone, we were, you know...
So that's like your mum and dad, you know, they might be crossing
the last
even
gang
else.
in town, wasn't it, the Clash? Do you know?
Yeah. How do you think the Clash managed to make all music that they attempted have such apparent integrity?
Well, we meant it. We felt it.
Yeah.
You know, it was... we've been talking recently. It was very organic. You know, when
you
I
weren't
joined...
moulded by a record company.
No, when I joined the band, the first album was a basic, like, punk album, you know? And when I joined, I loved playing that type of music, but I wanted to push it a bit further. You know, it was just it just changed organically. There was no decision that we're going to try this, we're going to try that. We just go, like we were saying earlier, Spike, you go into a studio and you start playing the piano, or pick up the bass, or pick up the guitar, and
so it's a wider experience.
And we were, don't forget, in those 5 years we were together, we did all those albums, like triples, doubles. We never stopped touring.
Yeah.
You know, we cracked the States, we cracked the world, we cracked everywhere, right?
So no one had an opportunity to try and mould you and do anything else anyway.
We didn't have any days off. We just played music. And
were you personally influenced by the Clash's political stances?
Well, I was of the left before I joined the band, and when I first went for the audition, I didn't realise that they were of the left either. I mean, that was just a coincidence. The politics I liked of the band were, right, well, we want to be the biggest band in the world, but we're not doing what the record company tells us. We're going to release triple albums for the price of one. We're going to release double album for the price of one. We're going to not play seated stadium. We're going to have, you know, it was just... It was a real naivety about the band that was beautiful, was that we want to be the biggest band in the world, but we're not doing anything we're supposed to. We won't do Top of the Pops. We won't mime in Germany.
Did you ever do Top of the Pops?
No. We won't mime. We wouldn't mime anywhere. We wouldn't mime in the States. We took support bands to the States. We took Bo Diddley, Lee Dorsey, Mikey Dread. We had all, you know. Yeah. And yet we wanted to stay in the best hotels, and it was anarchic, you know. It was,
but really, real anarchy, because you weren't even allowing yourselves to make the most of it in a financial sense.
You know, the funny thing is, it's when the band split up, we didn't have an awful lot of money, because we'd spent all the money on these extravagant tours and you know, taking cuts in the royalties for releasing the albums. And we wouldn't, you know, even in Japan, we played 5 nights in Tokyo rather than a stadium. We played 5 nights in Paris rather than a stadium. We played 5 nights at the Lyceum rather than Wembley. You know, it's kind of all limiting, all costly expenses, you know.
And all on principle.
Yeah.
Do you think they were right to sack you from the band?
That's a difficult one. I can see why they did. There's been a lot of talk ever since. I do know it wasn't down to my drumming.
No.
Because I've heard someone sent me a recording recently of a gig that was the day I was thrown out of the group, and the drumming's fine. Yeah. I think if it was anything, it was because I was becoming, you know, I'm now 10 years sober, right? Yeah. And I don't like to be around people who are drunk all the time. Yeah. They're irritating, they're annoying. You know, I can see why having to live with someone who's constantly stoned or drunk wasn't very pleasurable.
And maybe they were doing it for your benefit as well.
No, I think there were a lot of reasons. Bernard Rhodes was you know, didn't really want the band where it was at the time. You know, it had become, what I actually think as well was that we had become everything that we'd set out not to become. You know, we were successful, we were making great music, we were recording double albums and triple albums, and to be honest with you, I think it got to the point where Joe wasn't happy and comfortable being in a band that was successful. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And
so something had to give.
Yeah, and rather than leave himself, he got rid of me first and then got rid of Mick, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's by the by, you know. I'm glad today I got thrown out then, because the band exploded at the top. Yeah,
yeah, which is where, if you're going to explode, you might as well be. Last one, mate, last one. You gave the Clash their musical swing, an essential depth to their sound. How important do you think you were to the band?
I was vital to the band on stage, vital to the band in the studio, possibly a bit superfluous out of those surroundings, because Paul was the really good-looking one, Mick was the sensitive songwriter, it was his group, Joe was the front man and the political activist spokesman.
And you had to be the mad, bad and dangerous one.
I had to be mad, bad and dangerous, didn't I? Which just ends nicely, but, you know, and as I say, with hindsight, I could see why 5 years of someone being a bit nuts all the time would grind you down, you know. So,
on behalf of those people asking those questions, Topper, thanks again.
Thanks, Spike.